Okay, we're going live now. And I'm just checking to make sure it's live. So we are now live with Deepak Chopra. And hi, Deepak. Thank you for being here today.
I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to be talking about the universe, and we're going to be talking about love for our two upcoming issues, the universe issue and the love issue. And we have some really interesting topics to talk about today. But first I'll introduce Deepak, a man who really needs no introduction. He's a best-selling author, speaker, founder of the Chopra Center, the Never Alone Initiative, and one of the pioneers of bringing meditation to the American mainstream. And Deepak actually wrote the book on the universe, You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. And he was even on the cover of Meditation Magazine and the Guru issue. So thank you for being here. We appreciate your time today. And we're gonna, I think, really enjoy this conversation. So we generally like to start with a breath work or meditation of some kind. Would you like to lead us for a few minutes in a breath work or meditation of any kind of meditation that you feel right now in the moment for the universe issue?
Please close your eyes wherever you are. Uncross your legs. Keep your hands open in your lap, and start with just observing the breath. And as you observe the breath, mentally say to yourself, I'm the presence in every breath I take. I'm the presence in every breath I take. Now shift your attention to any sound that you can hear, including the sound of my voice, but many other sound in your environment. And mentally remind yourself, I am the presence in which every sound is heard. Now bring your awareness to sensations in your body, including the sensation of your skin touching your clothes. And mentally remind yourself, I am the presence in every sensation experienced. Bring your awareness to your mouth. Generate some saliva. Feel the back of your teeth, the roof of your mouth, and taste the saliva, mentally reminding yourself, I am the presence in every taste experienced. Bring your awareness to your nostrils. Be aware of any fragrances or odors or smells, and remind yourself, I am the presence in every fragrance experienced. Go a little deeper now and generate some images in your awareness. I'll guide you. Snow-clad mountains. Empire State Building. Rainbows. Starlit sky. And mentally remind yourself, I'm the presence in every image I generate. Now let's go a little deeper. So generate the emotion of love by thinking of someone that you love. Bring their image into your awareness. Shift your awareness to your heart. I'm the presence in which I generate emotions, including the highest emotion called love. Now, keeping your eyes closed, ask yourself, I wonder what my next thought is going to be. And please wait for it. Observe it emerge on the screen of awareness and then disappear again. Mentally reminding yourself, I'm the presence that generates thought. Now let your awareness move outside the boundaries of your skin. Let it pervade all of space and time. Planet Earth, the solar system, the Milky Way galaxy, 2 trillion galaxies beyond, with 700 sextillion stars and uncountable trillions of planets. And mentally remind yourself, I'm the presence in which the whole universe arises in the lucid now. I am the presence in which the whole universe arises and subsides in the lucid now. And now just replace all of this guided meditation with the mantra Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. It means I am the universe. Aham Brahmasmi. Just repeat the mantra mentally without moving your lips or your tongue. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. Now let the mantra go and rest in your own presence. Presence has no shape, no form. It is infinite. It is without cause. It is beyond space and time, and we are that. So rest in your own presence. Irreducible, formless, infinite, spaceless, timeless, inconceivable. We are that. Aham Brahmasmi. Feel your body. Come back to this theater of space-time and causality. And thank you for joining the meditation.
Thank you, Deepak. That was beautiful. Wow. I feel infinite right now, and I appreciate it. So I know that you're a busy man, so let's go into some of the questions now. We have so many interesting questions about the universe and love. And I'd like to start out with some sort of mystical questions. Maybe they're answerable, maybe they're not. But the most fundamental question to me that I always wondered about since I was a kid is, why does anything exist instead of nothing? It seems like it would be so much easier for nothing to exist. So why does anything exist?
So, it's a human quest to seek for explanations. You don't need explanation to experience existence, but nevertheless, we can postulate because that's what we do. Fundamentally, there's no explanation for existence. Zero. However, there is something called awareness of existence. So there's existence, and then there is awareness of existence. If there is existence outside of awareness of existence, it is not accessible to us. Therefore, awareness of existence and existence are synonymous. They're the same thing. Awareness, existence, and fundamental reality are the same entity. Now, it seems that all reality has two expressions: unmanifest and manifest. So we could easily also call it invisible and visible. Or we could call it on and off. And every experience is of that nature. If I put my hand on your thigh and I don't move it, after a while, you won't feel it's there. But then if I move it again, you might say, what the heck are you trying to do? So sensations of all kinds go on and off. If there's only an on, there is no sensation. If there's only an off, there is no sensation. So on and off go together. If I, light the light bulbs in my room or the computer, I can put it off, then I can turn it on. I can put the lights off, turn it on. The microwave, TV, everything works on this very simple principle, on, off. Okay, so the on is the fluctuation of existence. The off is the default mode or rest of existence. You can't have one without the other. They go together. Without the invisible, there's no visible. Without the visible, to actually manifest from the invisible, you need the invisible to vibrate as the visible. This vibration occurs in the form of sensations, sense perceptions, images, feelings, and thoughts. Now, as humans, we call that mind, body, and universe. In fact, those are human constructs. There's no mind, there's no body, there's no universe. There's only the invisible fluctuating as a species-specific set of vibrations. So the universe you experience is a human universe, not the universe of a dolphin or an insect with 100 eyes or an owl that navigates at night or a bat that experiences the echo of ultrasound. So species-specific vibrations of the invisible create the appearance of what humans call mind, body, and the physical world, the universe. But there's no such thing. You are not in the universe is in you. You're not in the mind is in you. You're not in the body is in you. You are curving back within yourself and recycling as everything that we call mind, body, and universe, but within a certain perceptual framework with perceptual and cognitive constraints. You have only access to a human universe. Now, on the level of emotion, you may have access to a dog universe because you have a relationship with your dog, or you have a relationship with your cat. Then you can in fact communicate and visit their universes. I know people who visit universes of birds and they communicate with birds. But you can communicate with the universe as well because it's your projection. You are the universe. So reality is unmanifest and manifest. That's the simplest explanation.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It reminds me very much of the yin yang, the Tao, philosophy of on and off and manifest and unmanifest. To me, it's that is a pretty good explanation, but I still wonder, where does that law of come from, that law of reality that you could call it, that makes it so that there's on and off, rather than just nothing.
Again, let's go in. If that reality is what we call consciousness, if that reality is what we call consciousness, you can call it anything. You can call it Allah, Brahman, Ein Sof, a-causal, non-local, quantum mechanical, interrelatedness, and all of that. It doesn't matter, whatever we call it. But if its nature is consciousness, then it is going to have to be conscious of something. Okay, if it's nature. So consciousness experience itself as subject and object of experience and the whole process of experience. Now, again, that's a human explanation. You don't actually, in the Vedanta and the great yogic traditions, there's something called, there in the 8 limbs of yoga, the first limb is yama, principles of social intelligence, and then there's a niyama. Niyama is principles of personal emotional intelligence. And the first niyama is called ahimsa, which means non-violence, which also means presence. In presence, there's no violence. And the last one is called Ishwar Pranidhana, which means surrender to the divine, because if you want to find a mystical explanation, you can make up any. Okay, so in the end, it's so in the infinite formless, it's so incomprehensible that you cannot compute it at the level of the human intellect. Philosophers talk about ontology, the nature of existence. They talk about what we call epistemology, the limits of human imagination based on a human nervous system, based on a very narrow bandwidth of perceptual activity, which is less than 1/1000th of what's out there. So it's all made up, okay? All explanations are made up. And in the end, if you don't surrender to mystery, then you will never achieve what is called unity consciousness. In the end, there's no other choice but to surrender to mystery. Now, of course, you can play golf, which is mystery school for Republicans, or you can even run for president at a frozen age of 8 years emotionally.
Yeah, I love that, that we have to surrender to the mystery. That's the core of mysticism, is mystery, of course. And I think just playing around with these questions, I think is a fun exercise for us as humans, for sure. So here's another interesting.
No, but just to complete that, in the Indian non-dual traditions, Maya is the veil of ignorance that covers fundamental reality. Maya means illusion. And then Leela is the play of illusion as body, mind, soul, and it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And some people like horror movies, so some people go to create their own horror movies.
Yeah, that's true. I liked how Alan Watts, when people asked him if he was a teacher, a guru, whatever, he said he was a spiritual entertainer, often talking about these same topics. I do think it's a really interesting thing to think about.
I'm right now where we are. I'm holding Alan Watts's book, The Wisdom of Uncertainty, or The Wisdom of Insecurity, here. And let me show it to you, because The Wisdom of Insecurity, and the introduction is by yours truly, Deepak Chopra.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I love Alan Watts. He's awesome. He contributed a lot during his time on Earth. So another interesting question to sort of chew on. Okay, so cosmologists talk about the universe starting with the Big Bang around 14 billion years ago. But we, in general, in the spiritual community, mystical community, we think of existence as infinite and eternal, rather than 14 billion years old and this certain size. So do you believe that these viewpoints are reconcilable?
So, in the deeper reality, yes, if we understand the mechanics of these ideas. So current cosmology is based on what we call physicalism, but it is also based on something called subject-object split, which means the subject and the object of experience are two different entities. So it's based on subject-object split. It's based on the idea that the universe is made of matter, physical, and it is based on the idea that if we understand the laws of physics as understood with this assumption that the universe is physical, if we do that, that we can explain everything, including, how the universe began. Now, here are some of the problems with the current Big Bang cosmology. Even though the equations of physics can be adjusted to explain everything that we want to, okay? The equations. Of course, where do the equations exist? In mathematics, and where does mathematics exist in consciousness? But that's another story, okay? So here are the problems with the current Big Bang theory based on physicalism. Number one, why did the Big Bang occur 13.8 billion years ago? Why not sooner or later? Could have happened sooner, could have happened later. Why did it occur exactly 13.8 billion years ago? Number one. Number two, where did the Big Bang happen? If you ask people where it happened, the biggest scientists, they said it happened everywhere. But everywhere was less than the size of a dot at the end of a sentence, less than the size of a... Now it's, from where you and I are, it's 47 billion light years away. It's expanding faster than the speed of light. In the first 10 to the power of minus 43 seconds before time zero, 10 to the power of minus 43, that's called a period where there are no laws of physics. Then at 10 to the power of minus 36, that's 10 minus to the power of minus 36 from time zero, something happened called cosmic inflation. The universe tripled in size every trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second, from the size of a dot to the size of a grapefruit, everywhere, in all directions. And then it slowed down. And if it hadn't been that precise, there would be no universe for mind and life or existence. Then something even more interesting happens. It moves to the size of a grapefruit, and then it slows down. And then it starts to expand again, but at much slower rate, but still faster than the speed of light. And what is expanding is space is expanding. As the universe is expanding, it is creating space-time. Okay. So now, even though the universe was born, according to science, 13.8 billion years ago, that's how humans measure time, okay? We measure time on planet Earth. If there are 2 trillion galaxies, 700 sextillion stars, uncountable trillions of planets, 60 billion habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy, according to now the latest telescopes, there could be 60 billion habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy, based on what they call the Goldilocks zone. The universe is too close to its sun, it's too hot, too further away, too cold. Within a certain range, then life is possible as we know it. In fact, not only possible, it's very likely. According to that estimate, 60 billion habitable planets in just the Milky Way galaxy. How many galaxies? 2 trillion. How many stars? 700 sextillion. So planet Earth is not even 1 grain of sand in all the beaches of the universe. On that is a species called Homo sapiens. Says, oh, the universe began 13.8 billion years ago, from my point of view, using my human nervous system. Now, with the standard model that we have, 70% of the universe is a mysterious entity called dark energy, which is anti-gravity, which is expanding the space between galaxies. 30% remaining, 97% is dark matter, which is not atomic. We don't know what it is. We can only interact with atoms because we are made of atoms. We are beings of light. And if something doesn't interact with photons or electromagnetic energy, there's no interaction. So dark matter, even though physicists are looking for something called, what do they call it? They call it a WIMP, W-I-M-P, weakly interacting massive particles. But whatever these are, these don't seem to be atomic. So dark matter is not only unknown, it's unknowable, in my opinion. That leaves 3% of the universe, which is atomic. Of that, 99.9999% is invisible interstellar dust, which we can't see. So the visible universe with 2 trillion galaxies, 700 sextillion stars, uncountable trillions of planets, is less than 0.01%. Now, here's the problem with that the atomic universe, which is less than 0.01%, which is this amazing amount, incomprehensible, is made of atoms and particles. And when particles are not being observed, they disappear into waves of possibility in something called Hilbert space or mathematical space. And you say to, our scientists, where's this space? They say it's mathematical. Hilbert is the name of a German scientist, a mathematician. But where exactly is this space from where the whole universe is arising and subsiding? The best answer scientists can give is shut up and calculate, because if you want your promotion or your grant, you're not supposed to ask these questions. These are mystical questions. Bottom line, if we are really honest, what's the universe made of? Answer, it's made of nothing. Going back to what we said earlier, the invisible and the visible. And then it says, why does it appear like this? Why does it appear like you and me and this computer and this iPhone? That's called the hard problem of consciousness, which scientists can't explain. So what we call science today is based on naive realism. Now, naive realism is not a condescending term. It means the simplest way to explain the universe is through this naive understanding is that the universe we see is the universe that exists. But obviously that's wrong, because the universe we see is based on the instruments of observations, which are human perceptions in the human brain, which in turn are modifications of consciousness. So is the view of modern science also, the nature of the cosmological constant, dark energy, is not known. And in fact, the cosmological constant, which we need to explain 70% of the universe, which Einstein described, actually, and he also called it a blunder, but he was actually right about it. The observed value of the cosmological constant and the measured value, which is the observed value, and the theoretical value is off by 1 to the power of 100 and something. And yet these models work for creation of technology, but they're just models, okay? And they're totally incomplete. So the scientific view is based on a physicalist view, is based on naive realism. It works for creating technology. It also works for creating now what we call metaverse and 3D technology. What we don't understand is we're already operating in a universe that is projected by our consciousness. And now, because we're smart human beings and we do mathematics, we can upgrade the illusion, downgrade the illusion, do whatever we want. That's our creativity. That's human creativity.
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful. Excuse me. Last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about physicalism and naive realism. And I asked you about idealism. And I asked you if, philosophical idealism being something that is sort of seen as an alternative to physicalism, if that was your perspective, idealism being that the universe is made of consciousness rather than the universe is made of physical matter. And at the time, you had implied that idealism is also an incomplete philosophy. So if it's not idealism and it's not physicalism, then what is it? What's your view in that sphere?
So yeah, Plato is given the credit for idealism in the West, although idealism existed in Eastern philosophies as well. Dualism in the West, Descartes is given the credit for that. Right now, there are three competing paradigms, okay? The first is matter-only monism, which we call physicalism. Problem is, no one has ever identified a substance called matter. The matter is a human name to human perceptual activity, okay? So physicalism as fundamental reality is philosophically out. It works scientifically for doing calculations and creating technology. Then there's dualism, mind and matter. That also has problems, because if mind and matter are two different entities, then what's the agent that mediates the activity of mind over matter, or vice versa? How do I lift my arm? Because it starts with an intention, which is purely mental, and then this is purely physical, right? So this violates what we call the laws of thermodynamics. No serious person believes in dualism. That leaves a third category, which is consciousness-only monism. Consciousness is the only reality, and idealism is a product of human consciousness, and we project our ideas and constructs of what we think reality is into our experience of reality. That's idealism. It's a human modification of consciousness, the field of possibilities, into ideas, but actually ideas create what we call perceptual and cognitive restraints. Okay, so if I, in other words, they limit your knowing. Your knowing limits your knowing. You already come with a presumed theory in the mind, okay? And so idealism constrains perceptual and cognitive possibilities. Then only one truth is left: the experience of fundamental reality as non-dual. Consciousness-only monism. And for that, there are techniques, including meditation and inquiry and self-reflection and transcendence and mindfulness and on, hundreds of techniques, which I actually teach, which will convince you that there's no physical world from your own experience. I don't know, if I try to convince you intellectually, you might be convinced because, the math works, this, that, the other. But in the end, that doesn't work. You have to know for yourself that you conceive, govern, construct, and become the universe that you experience. It is not only species-specific, it's culture-specific, and it is idea-specific. So in that sense, it is idealism as well. Idealism is what projects it, but that's not who you are. You're the generator of ideas.
Wow, it's really deep. So I'm gonna have to re-listen to this to really fully understand all this, if we can ever really understand it. And like you said, it's all species specific. All of our ideas are species specific and culture specific and everything like that. So would you say that beyond our species and culture specific observations of the universe, that there is no real objective universe, and that it's all just subjective based on our observations?
So beyond all these ideas, as Rumi said, beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And then in the Eastern wisdom traditions, they say there's the field and there's the knower of the field. I am the field and I'm the knower of the field. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, speaking as the spirit, says, Prakritim swam vashtabhai vishrajami puna puna. Curving back within myself, I create the universe again and again and again, curving back. And of course, Rumi says in another poem, look at these worlds spinning out of nothingness. This is you. Okay, so the fact is that reality is incomprehensible, but every idea comes from the incomprehensible. Reality we experience is time-bound, but every idea we have about the time-bound reality is timeless, from a timeless domain. So what exists beyond all this? Here are things that have been postulated. Number one, a field of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities, which is formless. You know, the great Indian poet Tagore said, in this playhouse of infinite forms, I caught sight of the formless and my life was blessed. Without the formless, there's no form. Okay, so it's infinite possibilities. It's formless. It's also infinitely correlated, which means entangled. Entangled means every knower, every species of knowing and everything known are all entangled in the same field. All possible knowers, all modes of knowing, and all things known. Entanglement is also called synchronicity or non-local correlation. So it's entangled, non-locally correlated. Third, it is unpredictable, not random, unpredictable. Like if I go to Grand Central Station, everything looks chaotic. You know, it's random, but everyone's going to a destination. And in my mind, it looks random, but actually, if I do some Bayesian mathematics, I can actually predict how many people are going probably to Philadelphia or to New York or to Baltimore just by being a good observer of the so-called randomness becomes unpredictable. The unpredictable is the prerequisite for creativity, because otherwise the predictable is recycling of old paradigm, old modes of thinking and knowing. So it's unpredictable, it's creative, it's infinite possibilities, it's self-evolving, it's self-regulating, and it's infinite and only experienced as transcendent. So when you look at the ultimate religious experience, the first is you discover for your own self that you're not physical, number one. You're transcendent, beyond space-time. Second, you discover for your own self, not because, you know, Jesus said or Moses said or whatever, that truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity is the fundamental nature of this reality, what we call Platonic values, going back to Plato. And third, you lose the fear of death. This is the universal spiritual experience, otherwise also called a religious experience, although these days, you know, it's become fashionable. I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. The experience is identical.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Satchitananda, that, you know, exists.
That's it.
Consciousness,
That's
bliss.
it. That's
That
it.
it's all just this. So I want to move on to the love questions in a moment. There were a couple of quick questions that hopefully we can do in quick format with short answers. One is this Om symbol that I have on my shirt. I think it's a beautiful symbol, the sound of the universe. You know, and they say Om is the sound of the universe. I know that you, as part of your teaching practice, you teach like primordial sound meditation, and the sound is really related to, you know, existence and the universe. Why would you say that sound, like Om, is the sound of the universe?
Well, Om is both local and non-local. So O never ends. Is the collapse. So it's non-local, local. It's the vibration. It encompasses every sound in between. And the various mantras we use are the vibrations in between, the ah and the in physics, we would call it the collapse of the wave function. But then when I say that, physicists roll up their eyes. So let's skip that terminology. But it is universal and it is local at the same time.
Wow. Okay, cool. So we talk about the infinite, you know, infinite field of possibilities that you mentioned. So we talk about, the physicists now talk about a big bang that came from essentially everywhere or nowhere. So if there was a big bang that came out of everywhere or nowhere, could there be other big bangs happening in other dimensions?
Yes, right now that's the most popular theory, multiverse, and also now going even deeper into maybe metaverses. So the professor of physics at Caltech, Sean Carroll, has now written a book called Something Deeply Hidden, and posits infinite big bangs, infinite universes, infinite dimensions, including infinite versions of you and me in these infinite dimensions. So that's the current scientific model, and it's as good as any other mythology. But right now, that's the most fashionable model, multiverse.
Yeah.
And that's also called eternal inflation. Now, if you want, you want a metaphor for that, imagine a cosmic Las Vegas. Okay, and the cosmic Las Vegas has infinite slot machines. And each of these slot machines is throwing a coin up and down infinite times. Okay, so it's going on. Infinite slot machines in an infinite Las Vegas with infinite casinos. And these things are going up and down, the coins. And at the floor of the cosmic casinos are little holes. And these little holes can only fit a fundamental particle, a quantum fluctuation, like a photon or something, or electromagnetic fluctuation. So this is happening. And because it's infinite, and because this is happening all the time, every once in a while, in a particular casino, in a particular slot machine, there's this one quantum fluctuation that is small enough to pass through the hole. And as soon as it passes through the hole, it spins off into a universe. But because there are infinite of these, there are infinite spin-offs of this. And this model, I'm giving you a metaphor, is called eternal inflation instead of what we call cosmic inflation. So right now, by the way, that's the most popular theory, and it's supported by what is called string theory and maths of that.
Wow, that's awesome. I always like the idea of infinities,
So here's another phrase that comes from actually the Yoga Vashishta, ancient Indian text. Infinite universes come and go in the vast expanse of consciousness like motes of dust dancing in a beam of light.
Wow, that's a really powerful quote. So in this infinite infinities and the infinity of infinities, there theoretically could be infinite life forms, right? Like infinite different kinds of life forms, like versions of us in other universes, versions of just completely different aliens. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, 100%. It's, look at just the versions of biological species on our own planet. A hippopotamus looks like it shouldn't exist, or a camel, it's running and it looks like, hey, that's, very strange species, or an eagle, or in the past, dinosaurs. So every possible form that you can conceive in imagination exists in the field of infinite possibilities.
Yeah, it's a really powerful thing. So so it makes us realize that we're not just alone in this universe. We're not just, humans and animals on this planet, but that there's actually infinite other beings. And there's this theory that I actually have heard you talk about it, that the universe is fine-tuned for consciousness. But if there are infinite universes, wouldn't that just be a function of statistics and like the statistical probability that there are universes that are fine-tuned for consciousness?
Yes, that's what scientists suggest. But here's again, the universe is consciousness, and there are many modes of its activity. You and I are at the moment a particular mode of its activity. But every possible mode of its activity exists in consciousness. Everything that you can imagine and everything that you cannot imagine. Rumi's poem, again, when I die, I will soar with angels. When I die to the angels, what I shall become, you cannot imagine, because then I'll need the imagination of an angel. So first you need human imagination, then you need archetypal imagination, then you let even that go and settle in the field of infinite possibilities. Let it take over. Surrender to mystery.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to shift gears now from the universe to love. I know we only have a few more minutes, so I want to get into some of these questions. So we've explored the relationship between the universe and consciousness, and I've also heard people say that the universe is permeated with love. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the relationship between the universe and love?
So first of all, what is love? Okay. And that in itself has been the biggest mystery of existence. Just like awareness and existence, everybody feels this thing that they call love. But if you ask them to explain it, they can't. Okay, it's a sensation actually in your body, somewhere in your heart, and sometimes if you're madly in love, every cell of your body is intoxicated with love. So, what is love? And I would say, quoting the Indian poet Tagore again, love is not a mere sentiment or emotion. Not a mere sentiment. Of course, it is a sentiment and emotion, but love is not a mere sentiment or emotion. It is the ultimate truth at the heart of creation. And so what is the ultimate truth of the heart of creation? There's one consciousness differentiating into different knowers, different modes of knowing, and different things known. Not only human, but all species of consciousness. Let's call them species of consciousness. A human being is one species of consciousness. But consciousness being infinite differentiates into all species of consciousness. Just like when you were conceived as a fertilized egg, you were one cell. Then you multiplied 50 times, only 50 times. 1 became 2, became 4, became 8, etc. And then 50 replications, you were 30, 50, 60 trillion cells more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Now, eyes look different from nose looks different from teeth look different from heart, but they came from one cell. And this process called differentiation, morphogenesis and differentiation. Morphogenesis gives rise to form. Differentiation, one becomes many. Not separation. Okay, the stomach cell is not saying, I'm separate from the heart cell, so I shouldn't digest food for the heart. The heart cell doesn't say, I'm giving oxygen to everybody. What am I getting in return? They function as one whole system. Similarly, you and the cosmos function as a system. It's not that consciousness projects as the universe and you need a biosphere that these guys are looking for, or the biosphere creates life. The biosphere is life, whether it's here or whether it's out there or whether it's across the fabric of space-time. So we have to get rid of this idea also of causality. There's no causality. That is actually limitation of what we call karma, becomes causality, limitation. So where does that love fit in? Love starts as a personal thing, okay? And you love another person, okay? Then there's, of course, you can love a person without sexuality or intimacy, or you can love a person with sexuality and intimacy. Human love goes through certain phases: attraction, what we call infatuation, deep kind of attention, listening, overlooking another person's so-called frailties, attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance. Second stage. The third stage after that is communion, and where there's a sense of equality and you're speaking at the level of the soul. Communion can lead to intimacy and sexuality, which can then lead to surrender and non-controlling, non-manipulation. And surrender can lead to ecstasy, ultimately to transcendence. So this is the journey of love that we all experience, but unfortunately, most people stop at the first or second phase, because they realized that the one they loved is not what they thought, ideally speaking, they were. And they forget that you, the one who's loving, is similarly not what you think you are. We have both, we have ambiguity, we have shadows, we have the dark night of the soul. We are not honest with ourselves. So love doesn't move beyond the stage of infatuation normally. But if we surrender again to the deep mystery of love as the ultimate truth at the heart of creation, not separation, differentiation, the one becoming the many, then every impulse to love is to go back to our source, which is divine. What's his name? T.S. Eliot, we shall not cease from exploration. The end of our exploring is to arrive where we started from and know the place for the first time. And that place is love.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. So I know that you may have a hard stop in a few minutes. Do you have a hard stop in 5 minutes? Because I want to talk about.
But I'm also know that you're going to be talking to Gabriella about the Never Alone initiative.
Yes.
Let her answer all the questions on the Never Alone initiative.
Okay, that's good. So that's what we'll do.
She's the co-founder and she's leading it. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Gabriella about the Never Alone initiative. I just wanted to ask you before that. So and let's try to make these quick because there's a couple of questions. So there are many paths into spirituality. Some people like Alan Watts, Carl Sagan, and I would say maybe you in some way take the universe sort of as their entry point into spirituality. And others take love as an entry point into spirituality, like as Amma as an example, or Ram Dass maybe as another example. Would you say that you take the universe as your entry point, or do you where do you feel like you fit on this spectrum?
I'm a yogi. So as yogis, we do Raj Yoga, which is daily practice, 8 limbs of yoga. You do Bhakti Yoga, which is the practice of love. You do Gyan Yoga, which is inquiry. And you do Karma Yoga, which is love in action, because love without action is meaningless. Action without love is irrelevant. So I would say I'm a yogi.
Okay, that's a good answer, that there are all these different paths that you can take into it. So I actually had a conversation with Krishna Dasa a few weeks ago about the universe, and this is the whole issue is about the universe. And he made a point that for many people, it's better to start with love than to start with the universe because, well, for many reasons. And I started thinking about what he said, and I realized that starting with the universe can lead to sort of spiritual bypassing, if you've ever heard of that. Spiritual bypassing, like missing the human stuff, because I'm infinite and eternal, so the human stuff doesn't really matter. What do you think of that? Do you think that focusing
these are all Western concepts? If you're a yogi, it doesn't matter how you get there. There are many paths to the same mountain, and all tributaries end up in the ocean. So different strokes for different folks. For me, all of them.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I know that we have to end in 2 minutes, so I'll just ask you the last question. And I'm going to talk to Gabriella about the Never Alone initiative. But I know that this is a mental health. It's an initiative that you made to help people, to prevent suicide and to help mental health. Where did this come from for you? Did it come from a place of love or oneness, or where did that come from?
Gabriella's sister was a recording artist, and Gabriella is an actress and a singer. When her sister died from suicide, she lost her voice. And she was actually doing this work already as a Buddhist meditation teacher. When we met her, we said, why don't you come and join the Chopra Foundation? And then, we'll have more resources to work together. So she's the co-founder. And we named an emotional chatbot Peewee, which is the nickname of the sister who died from suicide. And we can also call Peewee personal interaction with intent, PIWI. And so we are combining technology, and then we're using cryptocurrency and Earth Fund to actually create the means to support people who can't afford real counseling. So our emotional chatbot talks to people, and then if they can't afford it, we have counselors, and we're using cryptocurrency and blockchain to help people, democratizing well-being across the world. So what Gabriela was doing, we took it now together to the next level.
Well, okay. Thank you. Thank you for these amazing answers and this beautiful conversation. I've enjoyed it very much, and I know you have to go now. So thank you for your time. And you can see Deepak in the next issue of the Meditation Magazine. This one was the old one, and the new one is the Universe issue. It's going to be amazing. And I hope to talk with you again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Have a beautiful day.
You too, sir.
Bye.